And you record.
Terrific. Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Conservation Commission regular meeting this Thursday, December 11th, and the time is 12:02. I see that we're all present, so we'll move on to the second agenda item, which is public comment. I don't see anybody in the room. So we'll go ahead on and move to agenda item 3, which is the approval of the minutes for June 12th and November 13th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Tom Herman, I'll move to approve June 12th minutes. I haven't looked at 13th.
The 13th, okay.
I was in and out of that call, so I'm not sure.
Okay, we can.
Oh, wait a
delay-
second. I made the minutes.
You made minutes,
Yes.
yes, right.
I have read them.
Yes, I do recall you. Okay,
I'll move to approve both.
okay, terrific. You have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. All those in favor that were present?
I don't think I was at, I know I wasn't at the November 13th, and I don't think I was at the June meeting either.
Yeah, I do recall you were absent from the 13th. But,
Yeah.
okay, but we do have,
So, approval of majority.
yeah, majority of, we have the 3 that were,
That would be John and Tom and
Ann.
Ann.
I'm not.
Absent
from- Oh, you're not.
Because I was in and out.
and,
Okay,
and Tom.
and-
Exactly.
Okay.
Great, thank you for that. Moving on, Bristow update. Tiger, would you be able to?
Sure.
us a little bit?
So so we had a report that the culvert at Bristow Pond was blocked with some branches and logs. I had the highway department go out there and take a look and clear that out. Then we had a tree that fell down between Bristow and the adjacent property owner. And I reached out to Gannon Fence to go give me a price to fix it, and he's going to remove the tree as well.
Mhm.
And the repair should be minimal, and we have monies in the Bristow budget to take care of that. And then, excuse me, then there's a large dead branch hanging over the trail next to the pond, and I had the tree warden take a look at that. He we had that removed. And then they came in and looked at the land trust themselves. Did some planting of native seeds this week in the meadow behind Cam's garden, which is the proper time to do it. And it should be noted that all the seeds came from Bill McDonald's meadow. She's got some bags of mulch that she asked us to remove. It's just some small work. And then a shout out to the Parks Department as well for securing the bird feeders, which came down in the winds. So, so all in all, I think that, we have a bunch of eyes on it.
Yes.
So Robin's doing a really nice job of walking through and then giving us a laundry list of things to take care of. And then, like I said, and my tree warden goes in periodically, Parks Department goes in periodically. So I think, and the highway departments, I think I think it's in good stead. As far as maintenance goes, to try to make sure that what we did, all the repairs we made stay. I haven't gotten any complaints from anyone that it looks in disrepair. There's areas. Robin's, she's on everything. So I think that once she sees it, she tells us, and then we go and grab it. And I think we're okay.
Great.
So
That sounds very good.
yeah, I think we're good.
Leaves me with the idea that maybe we should coordinate with Robin to walk through with her when she does walk through. We could take
Yeah.
turns as a,
Might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had asked her to do the same thing because I wanted her to meet Lou, my new highway superintendent, because he took over from Mosey, and Lou is also going to be the transfer station superintendent.
perfect.
So she, that whole thing, that's on the Planet New Canaan side, not Robin's Hat as the land trust, but kind of land trust for Bristow,
Yeah.
and then the New Canaan for the Planet New Canaan for the transfer station. So we're going to do the same thing. It'd be a
Okay.
good idea. So if you go, we'd be happy to go with you. Yeah.
good. So I'll reach out to Robin today and ask her that she include us all on a quick email when she intends to do a walkthrough, and any one of us or all of us,
Yeah.
depending on our availability, can join.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Tiger.
No problem.
Moving on, any update on the South Avenue tree?
So, yeah, so I talked to Bill Pollock and our tree warden, Bob Haran, both separately, and they both had the same take. We have about a half a dozen trees, as I said before, that we're looking at. They each think probably 3 or 4 are going to have to be replaced. One definite that got removed because of Aquarian work. They got replaced. Happened to be at the worst time, which was August, high heat, and it didn't make it. So, but all the trees are under maintenance agreements. So we're still under maintenance. So it shouldn't be anything for the town. Bob's going to take a look and Bill's going to take a look at bud break in the spring and see exactly, what happened to all the trees. But he said that'd be the best time to take a look at it. And then we'll go back, and if anything needs to be replaced, we'll just contact Hardscrabble Farms, Cinos, and they've been excellent. So we'll get the replacement from them and put it back in the spring. It's kind of, right now we're kind of status quo. We, everything looks, you can't tell, what I mean,
Right.
unless you really know. And so, but both of them separately said they both had the exact same take. So I was like, okay, you got the same take. About 6 trees, 4 won't make it. We'll replace all the 4, and we'll do that in the spring. And then at that point in time, we'll have to take them off their maintenance. The highway department will still water them.
Yeah.
Right.
Through next year, for that exact, make sure that everything stays and goes, and goes well, I should say. And we'll go from there. Aquarian will be back next summer to work on South Avenue again. So we'll have to just look at the trees as they go through that area. But they have 1 more year at least through for that work. And it's a lot of equipment, a lot of manpower, a lot of things going on in that area, but we'll monitor that as it goes. We don't want everybody to think that we're out of the woods. We're not necessarily out of the woods. We got one more year of work to go.
And presumably Hardscrabble has an expectation that some percentage will need to be replaced.
Yes,
As
all
part
the
of
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they build that in.
Yeah.
I will say it's probably built into the cost that they know. Sometimes I've heard percentages much higher than 10%.
Okay.
Much higher than 10%. So
Great.
Who cares for the lawn strips along South Avenue?
that is mostly the homeowners themselves. South Avenue is a state road, so we do not do it. So the homeowners are not expected, but asked to do it. And if the state comes out, they'll only come out a couple times a year. It's very similar to all the roadside that we have. Our roadside mower is out every single day, and we only do the areas that we've talked to the homeowner about or that are not maintained. So if it's already been grass and it's being, mown by someone, a landscaper or a homeowner, we don't touch.
Well, they look good, so somebody must water them.
Right. What, the grass?
Yeah.
A lot of them have irrigation systems already
Yeah,
built in.
so I'm just thinking your
They're already
trees
built
have
in.
a great chance.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Tiger.
No problem.
Moving on, any update as far as the transfer station?
So I'm in the middle of superintendent change. So, because my long-term superintendent is retiring or has retired, and he's moving out. Now I've got a new superintendent coming in, Lou Boyce. So I have data for the MSW and for recycling. I have the brushy and the C&D, had on 2 separate files, haven't been able to combine it yet. So I have the one, and I'll give you the one. And it basically gives it back by year back to fiscal 12. And then what we'll do from there is I'll add the brushy and the CD to this file, and then we'll start to look to break it out, or going forward, giving you a monthly instead of, I don't also want to go back through the whole process back to fiscal 12 or breaking it up by month, but
No.
but if you want to pass those around, but it basically tells you, for the most part, our recycling is very, very flat. And our MSW has been coming down, over time. It's about the best way to describe it. So our recycling is relatively straight across the board from about 1.3 to 1.5. I should say 1,350 tons to 1,500 tons. And our MSW is municipal solid waste.
Okay.
So that's coming down, and that's just basically, we're all on private hauler. So it's private hauler driven, and we've got 6 or 7 private haulers in town. 5 to 6 service come to the transfer station, and it varies. If they get a better price bringing it someplace else, or some of them have their own facilities now where they manage their own, we don't necessarily see it. So we're seeing over time, our MSW overall tonnage coming down. We've been estimating about 7,000 tons for a number of years. This is the first year we're going to estimate at 6,500 tons. So kind of give a feel for, okay, we got to make sure we budget enough, but we don't want to be over budgeting.
Right.
But that's really, we're really at their mercy. If they come to us, great. They don't come to us, great. There's no, we pay $111 a ton going out and we charge 115 coming in. So for us, you can bring it, that's fine. We're going to make a little bit of money on it, but you don't have to bring it to us because it's a wash for us. And we try to make sure it all stays, it comes from New Canaan. Try to make sure that, the hauler brings here. We don't want to bring in garbage from elsewhere. But again, if they did happen to have a couple of loads that they snaked in there, we're being charged 111 and we're charging 115. So we're not hurting the taxpayer in that regard. But that's really where we're at. We did have on the food scrap side, we did have them come in and add a couple of more toters to our mix because we were getting complaints that the toters were full and what have. I think it really is. It gets close, as we said, it gets close to the top. People don't like to fill it in because it splatters.
Right.
We had a couple more toters come in, so we'll have those available for us, and we'll likely probably go back out to bid at some point in time to test the market.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thing that we're doing with Planet New Canaan right now. They're helping offset the cost. So if we can bring down their cost by going out to bid and seeing if we can get a little bit more competition, then we'll do that for them. And the other thing.
Question back, just one, do we care about the municipal solid waste going down? Do we want it more? Do we want it less? It doesn't
No,
make any
it
difference
doesn't
to us.
per se, no. When we're talking to the haulers now, because we're small fish.
Yeah.
So we're looking at in our next bid offering, which will be going out to bid this year. Our contracts all expire this year, and we're looking to expand from a 2-year contract to possibly a 5-year contract. Mainly because they have to put a lot of emphasis and a lot of material. They got to bring a yard boss in. They got to bring in their cans. So they got a lot of metal coming in, and some of that has cost to it. So they front load that cost. If we don't bring that out over several years, then we're going to pay for the front loaded cost and not benefit from the overall capital expenditure on their side. And they do say it does, if our quantities come up a little bit, it does help them a little bit on their side, but no one has said, oh, definitively, oh no, you're at 5,000 tons, I'm not taking you. It hasn't been that. We haven't had that problem yet. They are seeing whether or not we can combine our loads, being our MSW and our bulk, our C&D, and because of where they're bringing it. You can bring certain combined loads to certain places. You can't bring combined loads to other places. So waste energy plant got to just bring MSW, but to a landfill, you can bring both, right? That'll take it. So it gives them options.
Yeah.
As to what they're going to do. So we're going to look at that as saying, okay, if operationally it worked for you, then we can always bring the CD in and give you a combined load, and you can bring it someplace else, namely Pennsylvania, to be quite honest. But they have other places in Jersey and New York that they're looking at as well, because our stuff doesn't necessarily all stay in Connecticut. The majority of it does. The majority of it goes to the burn plant in Bridgeport, Wheelabrator, what it used to be Wheelabrator, waste to energy plant.
Yeah.
But we don't make a mandate that it has to go there. We just make a mandate that it has to be disposed of properly. So if it goes there, that's fine. If it goes to Pennsylvania, that's fine as well. We leave that up to the hauler.
So one of the questions that's of interest to me and maybe the public in general is what's happening to the waste. And so how much is great, but then like the fact that that some of it's going to be burned in Connecticut, or what vendor is taking it, we can understand a little bit more about the sustainability practices of the various vendors that we're looking at. I don't know if
that's a hard one, because that gets into on a given day, that load could be, they just might rerouting, and it could be a tractor trailer going someplace. It could be put on a rail car going someplace else. So for us, that's very difficult. We just make sure that it's disposed, that the contract it's disposed of properly. But we don't make sure that if we told them that had to stay in state, we'd probably be paying a lot more for it. Especially now because there's a capacity problem. So the state is generating too much waste than what it can handle in-house. So that's our problem. And I don't think anyone's going to want a waste energy plant in their town anytime soon, and a new one, let's put it that way. So that mathematics would be a little bit more difficult. We could ask them on a percentage basis what they feel, and I probably could get a percentage based number, but an actual, where did this load go? It'd be very, very difficult to try, or, like of the month, how many, I could probably get of the month, how many went here and how many went there, but of a day, probably not, they are moving, it's pretty interesting, the amount of moves that one piece of garbage takes.
I'd be interested in the statistics of the company generically. So,
Okay.
you know, the waste hauler X is on a monthly basis across everything it does. You know, 85% of it is going to incinerator here. They have, you know, so that we just sort of understand how does the vendor that we've chosen operate and how sustainable are they? I don't actually even know who the various vendors are. I
Mhm.
did know that it was 111 a ton through Planet New Canaan, but I don't know the other ones.
Yeah, that'd also be a question for them, because I don't know.
Yeah,
Overall, I gotta, you know, I don't
I'm
wanna give up-
happy to ask them.
Yeah, I don't want to give up any operational, you know,
yeah,
if they found a way to save money and the town saves money and our bid is less, I don't want to give that out to somebody and then they, you know,
totally.
you know, but we can certainly during the process, you know, we ask where they're planning to go, because we need to know that they've planned. So in the RFP process and the bid process, we have them give us their locations as to where it's going to go, so that we know that they've already kind of contracted out.
Yeah.
And I can give you that, but you know, and percentages I could likely give you, but it gets overall company wide for them, that more or less, you know, that have to come back from them from their, you know.
I can get
Annual
that data
report.
from their environmental sustainability annual
Yeah.
reports.
Yeah.
So if I know who they are,
I can
then-
give you who they are as well. So I'll give you a list of who we contract with presently. And then when we contract in June for the next go, I'll give you that as well. And then if you want to do that diligence, yeah, that'd be great.
There's a thought here. I agree that it would be interesting to find out where our trash goes. And these numbers are, you know, they don't change much.
Mhm.
So if we wanted to move the dial on some of these numbers, it could be helpful if we had a synergy with our communications with the public.
Mhm.
Just saying, hey, everyone, here's how much trash we're producing and here is where it's going.
Mhm.
You know, I think,
as a town, we want to see this red line going up directly correlated to the blue line going down, because we're all taking recycling materials out of our solid waste and putting it into the recycling stream.
Right.
We can communicate an
Yeah,
effort
yeah.
and show people our success.
Mhm.
yeah, and the food waste program that you run, I think, you know, we could bring some attention to that.
Right. Well, because that would help the, you know, to Tom's point, that helps the blue line, right? So that
Right.
helps the blue line come down.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, overall, you know, your first part of the R is reduce, right? You know, so, you know, it's reduce, you know, so if you reduce the consumption overall, then every number comes down, right? So every line comes down, and then we worry about how the mix is after the reduction, and then, you know, and then try to get that waste line down and that recycling line up, you know, at that point in time. But, you know, I think the communication to the public also is, if you know, reduce and reuse are the two big ones before you get to recycle, right? So if you get to that saves a lot through here first from us. You know, the reuse is swap shop.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good you know, good mix on the swap shop, and the reduction is just an overall reduction in consumption at that point in time. But
and the swap shop is big, heavy stuff sometimes. So
sometimes
can
it
make
is,
a-
yeah,
make a
which
difference.
matters,
Yeah.
right? But there, the volume is difficult to determine. I just know that it comes in and out a lot. There's a lot of stuff coming in and out, and it's working very well.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know, you know, I don't know how else. We had at one point in time talked about having them come across the scale in and out, but you know, that would just gum it all up crazy. And I don't know if everybody would want to know, you know, that. And so but we do know that it's still being heavily used. You know?
Yeah.
And with that, they're tweaking the hours just a little bit for the winter time. So they tweak the hours on the website, but the main one is that on Fridays at noon time, we close, right? And that is only for the safety of our staff and specifically the swap shop, because we're right next to our salt shed, right? So anybody who's right there, they're in the backing zone of the loader. So as he comes out of the salt shed and backs up with a load to put it in the truck, and we're loading our trucks for the weekend around noontime, 12:30. So we asked for them to start, instead of 1 o'clock close, 12 o'clock close on Friday, specifically for that reason, just for safety. Because God forbid we don't have any, you know, I don't have any problem with that. The guys aren't, you know, they're great, but at the same time, they're, you know, a pedestrian walking behind him, he's not going to see it in the big loader. So,
Tiger, can I ask a question
Sure.
on the chart of the MSW? Does that include the residents that bring their own waste to?
yes, it includes the residents. Yeah. So residential waste is included in here.
Do you have
Yeah.
a sense for what the mix is? I mean, to
No.
the extent that people are bringing less because they're consuming less. That's
Right. Well, you're at about a ton and a quarter to a ton and a half per household is what it is, right? And we have about 3,000 stickers.
Yeah, okay.
So,
But many people, including myself, are a mix, right?
Yes, yeah.
Even harder to know.
We have right, because we have people who strictly just come for recycling.
Yeah,
We have some people just have a sticker in case
yeah,
they need to come to us,
Yeah,
but they
exactly.
never come to us because they got a hauler who does recycling and MSW, and they never come to us, right? Except if they've got something bulky that they want to dispose of. So the sticker one is really hard to say, oh, well, everyone is at a ton and a quarter, because it's not. I would say the majority of them are not, that are a lot less than
right,
that.
right, right.
So,
Okay, but this is the blue line is the total.
blue lines
total
combined.
Tonnage.
Yeah, blue lines combined.
And food waste,
Food
Yep.
waste having a separate lot, yeah, only, it would be very low on the thing, but I have a separate one tracking that, and I'll bring that to you guys as well, but we have a separate one that, monthly. We were doing it weekly, and now we're just doing it monthly as far as where we are. And, but I can give you an annual chart here as well, but we're low, so, it would be a much lower line. We'd be between 0 and 1,000,
Yeah.
get a little bit difficult to read. At that point, but I'll give you one separate for those. I have that, so I'll just bring that. I forgot to bring it on this one.
Tiger, if you need any help doing data integration, data massaging, anything like that, feel free to ask me. I'm
Yeah.
happy to do.
Yeah,
some
I'll
of
let you
that.
know. Yeah, right now it's just, we had all this, like this I already had. I had
Yeah.
all of it done. I just had to add in,
Yeah.
last year's numbers to the mix. And like I said, we're keeping track specifically for food scraps, because we have to, when I asked Plan New Canaan to make up the difference, I got to prove to them what the difference is. So we've been tracking that wholeheartedly to make sure, and we want to know, we want to see if we're gaining anything. We're doing great. We're not losing. We're steadily increasing, but we just need a little push.
and what do you think the idea of setting sort of a goal for our town to hit on these numbers of like by 2028, we all want to hit,
Could, I'd like to, like I say, to that point, I'd like to see the MSW one come down overall, just on a reduction level, right? And a reuse level, and then to see the recycling come up to a manageable level. And then the food scraps, just want to make it so that it's cost neutral.
Right.
Yeah.
At that point. And with that, I should mention, Katie reached out to me yesterday or this morning, I forgot which, and they're looking at possibly putting together food scrap kits for either free or for sale at a reduced rate on their website and on our website, so that people then, if you have your food scrap container already, then you're halfway there, right? So you bought it. Let me go and utilize it. So they were looking to do that. We had looked at that originally, and in the beginning we said, well, let's just get the thing rolling, and then we'll look to implement that later. And they're looking now to implement that, and that might be a nice little push forward. To see if we
Yeah,
can
very good
push that dial up a little bit.
They're also going to drive that into East School, West School, High School.
They have been, yeah, and
Saks.
that'll
They've got a
matter
whole
too.
Proposal to put together. It's
That'll matter too, because then when your son or daughter comes home and says, well, I just recycled all my food at school, why am I not recycling my food here? And that's the biggest push, it's the getting kids to wear seatbelts, right? Kids wear seatbelts and they say, Dad, because I look at them and go, seatbelt? Oh yeah, Dad, what about, and because, I grew up in the age of when they weren't, I don't want to date myself.
No commercial waste like food scraps or stuff like that.
We're not taking any at present. No, our hauler does and goes to some commercial establishments and takes them from them, but we don't accept anything from a commercial establishment. We ask them to go out straight. They would inundate us in one shot.
But they do their own thing.
They do their own thing. And Plan New Canaan has been talking to all the restaurants in town to try to drive that awareness up. And I know some of them already participate, not all.
Yeah, I would actually say most don't.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple supermarkets, like one supermarket that does, and there has been some trials with some others, but it's an area where as a town, we are quite off the mark. So you're digging in a good location if you want to look for opportunity.
No, I was thinking actually smaller places.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smaller vendors in the food business in this town. And I was just curious as whether any of them were involved.
None of
I'm
them are
not
bringing-
thinking
yeah.
about Acme or anything like that. That's too.
Well, but Acme and Walter Stewart's are great ones, and the two old age homes are serving hundreds of meals 3 times a day.
Mhm.
So those are like huge opportunities for the town, along with the schools. Those are like
Right.
probably the biggest things where.
Mhm.
Tiger, this is so awesome.
No
Thank you.
problem.
I
Thank
love
you, Tiger.
data, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that it's a lot of work for you.
Wow, it's all
And
good.
so thank you so much.
No, you're welcome.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Tiger.
Anything else? You good?
Any other questions for Tiger? No, we're good. Thank
No?
you, Tiger.
All right, thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. All right, making good progress on time. Moving on to the next item, budget discussion. If you recall from the November meeting, we talked a little bit about the process of looking into acquiring a budget. It starts with a sort of informal budget review. Should we put a proposal forward, and that would begin around this time. So as we were discussing that, Ann and Tom both talked about possibly some communication initiatives that might require a budget, and you were going to look into
Yes.
those initiatives and, again, possible budget.
Yep, Tom and I have met and started discussions around this, and a couple of things to update everyone on. One is I had a conversation. One of the areas that we talked about before was having some kind of speaker, budget for speakers
Mhm.
and a speaker program. So I put a call in to Mickey at the library, Michaela Porta, and she manages the speaker program at the library and what spearheaded the Jeff Speck event.
Oh, okay.
And so they are very interested in partnering with us if we want to propose speakers on conservation issues. I was interested in figuring out what sort of budget we would need to work with them. And her position was that if we bring speakers forward, proposed speakers, work with them on what the event would be, they have the funding to pay speaker fees, travel expenses, and would be willing to meet us, partner with us by providing those funds.
Terrific.
It would need to have broad public appeal, but if it's aligned with our mission, I think we could have a nice partnership there.
Great.
And she suggested that if there's a budget item around that, it would be synergies with our communications program. So we would be communicating with the public around whatever issues the speaker would be talking about. So that brings us to the sort of printing costs, which is what we were, Tom and I were trying to figure out, well, what would that number look like, and how do we, as you suggested, we need to find out exact costs and then come back with a number.
Right.
So I did put a call into a printing company in Norwalk, and they gave me some ballpark numbers.
Okay.
A lot of it is easy stuff for, posters, a couple $100 and, 4x6 cards
Yeah.
that we could distribute at events with information, another few $100. The part I'm trying to figure out right now is the direct mail option. So, a flyer in every mailbox in town. And this is something that this company does. The call I need to put in next is to the post office to figure out the postage cost. But I think there are about 7,000 households in New Canaan. And so this printing company is going to get me, if I give them an exact number and put the call into the post office, they'll come back to me with an estimate. So the ball is rolling.
Okay.
Is there a deadline for our proposal?
I'll get with Tucker and understand if there's a hard deadline, but the suggestion was sometime here in mid-December to start, informally floating, a proposal forward to the selectmen through Tucker, and then get something more concrete. at
Okay.
a later date. But
Great. I think we can work with that.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to,
On that point, you
yes.
might ask a couple of the people who actually do flyers what it costs. I'm thinking of the land trust. You can call
Exactly.
Robin and just say, what is your
Sure.
last flyer?
Yeah, they have somebody on the land trust had 40 years in direct mail.
Yeah,
One of the people on their marketing
but she
committee,
can
yeah.
even just tell you.
And she can tell you.
You know, the
Yeah.
annual
Good idea.
mailer, yeah,
And
Good.
Planet New Canaan as well.
yeah.
And
okay.
Planet New Canaan as
Are
well.
you a
Yeah.
Planet New Canaan guy?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe that's a call we
Yeah.
can make.
Good.
There were a couple other things, some of the digital costs. We
Yes.
found out that you have access to updating the website through, I guess, was it Lola?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can make some changes there. One of the questions that we had was, how is that just up to you and us as a team to decide what's appropriate and inappropriate, or
I initially, I think, yes, it is.
as long as we don't
Right.
ruffle any feathers?
Yeah, we'll take the opportunity to, run up the flagpole,
Yeah.
you know.
I
Of course,
did think
but-
that the leaf blower material that's posted there, which links to a third-party website, was great, but also the kind of thing that some people in my town might not have preferred to have published,
Okay.
or they might have had a less in favor of leaf blower alternative presentation as well.
Right.
So that surprised me. I don't care actually, but either way, but that sort of led me to think maybe we have some flexibility.
Yeah, I would agree.
One more thing to add, and I haven't updated you on this yet, Tom, but shout out to Lola for sending me some previous year's minutes where budget items were discussed.
Oh, good.
There's some interesting ideas that were in the mix. And one was, this was when Chris Shipper was running the
Mhm.
Conservation Commission. They were looking at partnering with the Land Trust to host like a walk run event through the open space in town to bring attention to, the conservation and the importance of open space, like a 5K or a 10K.
Mhm.
You would get, sponsorship, and you would, it would be sort of a town-wide event, sort of like the Turkey Trot.
Right.
And I'm not sure if that ever, was, what happened to that, but that stood out to me as an interesting opportunity that we might, pursue.
Sure.
And then also there's also in the minutes, lots of discussion of possible grants and donor development. And it's not something we've talked about yet, but I'm curious whether the town has a grant writer, works with a grant writer.
They do have a grant writer.
Okay, so this seems like something we
But
could.
some of the grant applications that we talked about, we did talk about a number of them, are the grantees are agencies that have fairly small grants, and the process of getting a grant approved for submittal in this town is fierce. So we chose to go through the Land Trust. We did almost all the Bristow stuff outside, actually, of the town.
Interesting.
You're saying that the Land Trust made the application for
No,
the
they
grant
didn't
funding?
do the Bristow. Bristow was done by, we set up one of these grants that is it was run out of state assistance. And we were able to sort of circumvent the whole process and we did also work with the Land Trust.
So Ridgefield just got a $1.2 million grant from the state to expand their food waste program. That's
Ridgefield,
a big number.
Ridgefield has no problem getting $1 million grants.
Right, they have a grant writer who is apparently a rock star.
Maybe we
I
can
I
get in
think
touch with
they
her.
also have a network out there politically that also is hugely
Yeah,
advantageous.
Housatonic, something or other.
I can't
Yeah.
remember, but I watch Ridgefield because they are also pioneers.
Yeah.
They are not followers, and they get $1 million grants. They did a bunch of stuff with the state.
Yeah.
And they reorganizing their downtown network and so forth, and that was multi-million dollars.
Yeah. If we could get a $2 million grant to take down the old incinerator and all the asbestos in it, then we'd have a lot of space to do sustainability or conservation related activities. For example, I don't know if anyone else feels like the traffic pattern inside of the transfer station maybe isn't absolutely optimized with everybody with like 5 different, 6, 7 different roads all basically meeting at the scale. So there's lots of things like that that we could apply for funds.
Mm.
And some of the grants are huge.
Yeah, we should be thinking about this and compiling a list of things we could
Yeah.
possibly apply for.
Yes. Oh, that's great. Great point.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, and let's be sure to pick it up in our next meeting. Just
Yeah.
continue the discussion.
Yeah.
So we'll put this grant funding as a line item on the next agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and we'll
Perfect.
follow up with you about the deadline for proposing the
Yes.
budget.
Yeah.
Great.
Great. Perfect. All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, new business. I do not have any new business to announce. Anyone? No?
We can cross off number 12 as well,
Okay.
because we've now,
We have.
yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would say is that from budget perspective, we know that the guy who does the Land Trust and Planet New Canaan and some of these other websites, he's $100 a month.
Yes. Okay.
So.
All right.
If we want to have a more substantial than just our text page.
All right. Good. As far as general information, I believe our next meeting is the 8th of January. Is that correct? I will send out a note prior to the 8th, just to confirm attendance, because it's rather close to the new year. I just want to make sure we have a quorum for that
Yep.
meeting. Okay, then moving on. I'd like to introduce Michael Dietz, if that's correct pronunciation, and his colleague Alec Janis, who is here in the room with us. You can please give your own introductions, but I understand you're from the Yukon Department of Extension and here to talk about issues pertaining to private well systems. Really glad you could join us. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. This is Mike online, and I am going to turn it completely over to Alec, who will be running the show for you there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, cool. Yeah, so thank you guys for having me. Talked a little bit with Susan before the meeting about kind of, the importance of well water and how the majority of the town is on well water. So excited to talk a little bit about what we know. And yeah, let's see, we've got about 20 minutes. So should have enough time to go through here. And if we have any questions at the end. But just to give you a rundown.
Can I just ask you before you start, is this presentation available for posting?
Sure. Yeah.
So we could put it out
Yeah.
there?
Correct.
Yeah. I will send you an email with all the slides
Thank you.
after this. So I'm just going to go through and run through, where the water in your well comes from, the different types of wells that we have, standards and regulations or lack thereof,
Mhm.
what you may find in your well, how to treat it, and kind of the importance of testing. If we have time to talk about some of the data that we found across Connecticut, we can touch on that. But if not, we can just run to questions or y'all can send me some emails. So let's get into where the water comes from. So, beneath your home, sometimes there's a stigma that, or a misconception that the water you have at your house is directly yours. You own that water. And that is simply untrue. All the water beneath our feet, in the soil, it comes from the precipitation, it comes from rain. And underground, you have a layer of soil, and beneath that, further down, is just one solid piece of stone called bedrock. There are two types of wells that we have, and I'll talk about those in a second, but the top layer of that soil is sand and gravel. It holds a lot of water. You pick up some piece of dirt, you can see all the different little minerals between your fingers. When it rains, water fills in the space between all of those tiny little minerals, and it stores a lot of water. So people with dug wells, more shallow wells, let's move over. These tiny, small little dug wells, they can hold a lot of water. They very quick to recharge whenever it rains. I don't think the mouse is going to be good for showing you with this, but dug wells will get all of your water from the surface. So if you are putting fertilizer on your lawn, if you're putting de-icing salts on your lawn, all of these, when it rains, some get filtered out as water moves through the ground, but a lot of that does end up in these small dug wells. Dug wells are an older type of well. We don't use them as much anymore. When wells are installed now, you're more likely going to have a drilled well. A drilled well is going to run much deeper, could be anywhere from 60, 70 feet to 300, 400. We rarely see wells that deep here in Connecticut, but every so often you do find one. So the dug wells will not have the same type of issue with surface level contaminants. Most of them do get filtered out. However, they reach into that bedrock that I mentioned before, that harder stone. And so that fractured rock, though, holds a little bit less water than sand and gravel. When you drill a well into that, water will pour into that drilled well. And so the issues you have with drilled wells will be that, water is running through that fractured stone. Here in Connecticut, we have, naturally occurring a lot of iron, a lot of manganese. There's a bit of uranium, a bit of arsenic. And as water is traveling through all those tiny little cracks in that stone, it's slowly eroding it. So it will pull in some of those other harmful contaminants into your well. And so you just got to know that your water level, it may change depending on what your well is. The quality, it also can change. Just because it looks fine and smells fine doesn't mean that it doesn't have something harmful in it, especially arsenic and uranium, which both have no taste and no color. So I'm going to talk a little bit about standards. And I want to stress the point that when I'm talking about these standards, I am talking about municipal water standards. For wells, the only time a well is required to be tested is when it is installed. After that is entirely up to the well owner to decide if they want to test it or not. And the standards that they use are based off of the maximum contaminant levels that the EPA sets. And I also want to stress that there is both maximum contaminant level and a maximum contaminant level goal. The goal is the amount of a contaminant that you can consume where there's no risk to your health whatsoever. Whereas a maximum contaminant level is a level that is set using a cost benefit analysis to say how much a treatment plant can take out of the water that is both reasonable for them and the consumers in the town. So both are fine, right? You want to be closer to the goal, if anything. And so when we talk to people through our well testing program, we let them know that, yes, you have arsenic and it is below your level, below the maximum contaminant level. However, there is still some risk associated with having arsenic in your water. And then we'll go through about how to treat it and what are their options. There are two types of standards. One is primary, which are the standards that are concerned with your health, whereas there's also secondary, which is more like hardness in water, where has no issue to your health. If anything, too hard water may actually help coronary disease, but studies are still on the fence about that. But too hard of water can fill up your pipes and create a coating on the inside and reduce the efficiency of your water system. And again, these are just recommendations for well owners. There's nothing that a town can legally do. So I've touched upon a few contamination sources already, but knowing the history of your property is also very important. If there's historically farms, or let's say there's oil tanks that are buried underground, these can be leaching into your water and can cause pretty severe issues. We are starting a PFAS testing program with Department of Public Health soon. And, they're already, DEEP has been testing people's well water for firefighting foams. And some of the towns near us up in Killingly, they have found what they were looking for firefighting foams. Turns out there were no firefighting foam related to PFAS. However, there were 60 times the rate of other levels of PFAS, and they're still looking for the source of where that came from. But historically, there is a Superfund site in the area. There are records of illegal dumping. So knowing where your water or what's happened on your land will impact the quality of water, even if it is 60, 70 years ago. So if you do find contaminants in your water, there are a handful of ways of treating it. There are two types of options. One is a point of use system, and one is a point of entry. Point of use are more recent, becoming more popular in recent times. They will go right underneath your sink. It's going to be a much more cost-effective option for treating things contaminants out of your water. If, let's say you have like radon in your water, right? Radon you can drink all day and it will never cause any impact to your health. However, if radon is volatilized and you breathe it in, that's when it can increase your likelihood of developing a lung cancer or lung complications. So you would want to treat your entire home for radon. But for something like arsenic, if it's coming out of the faucet and it's landing on your skin, you're not going to absorb it through your skin. So there's no real need to be taking that out of the entire home's water supply, just taking it out of the supply that you're drinking or cooking from. And so there are a handful of different filtration options, some things that will get your larger particles, such as iron and manganese, water softeners, which are possibly overprescribed here in Connecticut. We do have hard water, but sometimes people see that white chalky film and assume that that is an issue. It's not going to be change any quality of the taste or have any impact on your health. We do recommend reverse osmosis to most people, especially a point of use reverse osmosis. It will take out nearly everything. And this is a very complicated slide right here. And we have a few fact sheets. If you guys would either like a digital copy or can pass them out. But we've created a small guide. Let's say you have arsenic and iron in your water. You can use the matrix on here to say, all right, an absorptive filter will take out arsenic, but it won't take out iron. However, if you keep going down the line, you can see that a reverse osmosis will take out both arsenic and iron. And then you can use the other several pages to look at what options may be good for you. Will a point of use system be your most financially appropriate option? What is the maintenance on that like? And pretty much anything a homeowner may need to know about treating their water. So in terms of testing, the state recommends testing for what they've called basic indicators. These are the contaminants that are required when you first install your well to be tested. They recommend doing this every 1 to 2 years for the majority of those indicators. Things such as arsenic, lead, or arsenic and uranium, they don't move through soil as quickly. So recommend checking for those every 3 to 5 years. And there also hasn't been a recent amendment to that law that I told you about back in 2022. They said that we're going to now require people to test their wells for lead, arsenic, and uranium at that initial test. I think it's an important thing to bring up because anyone who has installed a well prior to 2022 most likely did not test their wells for some of these more harmful contaminants. And we do like to stress that just in case anyone who has not tested their well. How am I doing on time?
I think this is fascinating enough. I'd be willing to go a few minutes over.
Absolutely. All right.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. So some about what we have found from Connecticut well owners. And I'll back up a little bit. We got a grant from the USDA a couple of years back. It was mainly Michael. I was still in grad school at the time. But we were able to provide subsidized well testing to Connecticut well owners. And so we were able to help around, I think we're at 960 well owners at this point. providing a $50 well test. I believe in this general area, it's somewhere around $400 for that same test. We did an event in Reading, I think it's the closest we've been to around here. But we were able to provide 45-minute lecture, talk about what are in people's wells, how to treat it, provide that subsidized test, and then anyone who received negative results, we then worked with them to get treatment and all of that. So in Connecticut, around a quarter of the state population is on well water. Once you leave that 91, 95 corridor, it's mostly everyone on well water, and I'm sure you guys know that. So those recommendations I mentioned before, we found 6% of people actually follow those testing recommendations. So we have plenty of work to do in terms of that. I've mentioned that a couple of times. I mentioned those both. So give you guys a visualization of where we have done a lot of our testing. We've offered the workshops, like I mentioned, and also an option for anyone who couldn't reach those workshops to come to the UConn main campus, drop off a sample, and we would provide them the same service. Doesn't help out around here, but if you do look at the map, which I guess you can't really see, there are some people in this county that did make the drive out there, do that 2 hours. So this is a majority of what we found in terms of numbers. Main thing we do find is around 1 in 3 people have total coliform bacteria in their wells. Followed by that was pH, which is one of those secondary contaminants. It's not going to impact your health if your water is too acidic or too basic. However, it may start corroding your pipes. And then we do start seeing other things, especially people who have older homes. They may have leaded pipes, and we then see much higher levels of lead. After that, I think was sodium, and that is, again, road salts and people putting salt in their properties.
How many was that what was the sample size on that?
This one, I believe it was probably around 700 when I made this one.
Okay.
7 or 8.
Yep.
So we mentioned that 94% of people are not following our recommendations. We did a little bit of social science, doing some survey work with people. The main 3 barriers: convenience. It's just, not something they think about. The cost of it was too high in their area. And sometimes, I haven't tested it in so long. Why am I going to bother? It's been 20 years. I'm still fine. Talked to someone yesterday, and he was like, I haven't tested in 20 years. It's probably fine. Came back, no E. coli, but almost maxed out the amount of bacteria that could have been in his well sample.
Wow.
But he's been drinking it so long.
He's friends with the bacteria now.
So we've been, trying to increase access. We have a mobile lab that we kind of take down to some of the areas. Back when we had funding, a little harder to get funding these days, but we're still trying. Lowering the cost of testing has made it much more convenient for people. And even still, we are offering a reduced test right now. It's around $225, but even at that, we did an event in Middlesex County maybe 6 months ago and still had over 100 people show up, and we had to cut off the amount of people that actually participated because we just overwhelmed the lab. So increasing awareness of doing stuff like this, and thank you guys for having me again. And then reminders, just sending emails to people after a couple of years and say, have you tested your well again? And just letting them know that our service is still available.
The water maintenance companies, I think, I don't know.
Foley pump service or something like that.
Yeah, or whatever. There are a number of them around where they come and they if your pump breaks, they replace it, and they do water testing. Do they test for do you actually have to ask for these?
I believe so, yes. Some people will test for a handful of contaminants, but not that full basic indicator list.
So they have a basic service level where they, I think there's a certain amount of chloride that's introduced. I guess that's against bacterium. And they will test other iron. I know that because people get pissed off that iron colors your plumbing. And there were a few other things, but they don't have a whole selection. So you have to actually ask them to do this.
Yes. And so like each treatment company is going to be different. And so I can't really speak for all of them. There are labs in your area. And we do have a map that we created so that, oh wait, didn't come up on the screen. But I can show you right here that, you know, there are a certain amount of labs in the area and they will provide service that you can ask specifically for all of those contaminants.
So you have to reach out to the labs directly,
Yeah, I'm
not
not
your regular sort of water maintenance people who come by maybe once a year.
Yeah, I can clarify that. This is Mike. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So Alec is right. The labs that are on that map are certified by the Connecticut Department of Public Health to provide drinking water testing for those parameters. The treatment companies, sometimes they do quick tests in the field, like at your house with a little test kit. Those are fairly accurate for certain things like iron, perhaps manganese, maybe things like that. But they're not those. That's not a certified result for drinking water. Not that you're required to do that, but they're not as accurate as when that sample gets taken to a real lab, and the lab will do the other parameters. And I know for sure that the treatment companies will not test those things in the field, such as arsenic, uranium, that sort of thing. So, and again, as Alex said, that's really important since most people, if your well was installed prior to 2022, you've never had your well tested for those things. And you can look on that chart he had. There are a significant number of people we found that had that present. And those were just the ones above the MCL. That doesn't even include others that were below the MCL, but still above that goal of 0. So this stuff is present, and you're just taking the chance that you might have it in your well if you don't test for sure. So I apologize. I have to run to another meeting, so I'm going to leave you with Alec at this point. But thank you for inviting us down and as Alex said, increasing the awareness of this issue.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about the health impacts that the typical resident in New Canaan with well water should be worried about? Are we thinking about like infants and pregnant women and children drinking endocrine disrupting PFAS, or what are the scary impacts here? And then secondly, I like this idea of a mobile lab. I wonder if we could arrange for a visit to New Canaan and have like a well water testing day.
I have some questions on that as well.
Yeah. So let's see. I put some slides in here that I don't normally use, but just in case it did come up. So I could talk a little bit about arsenic. So here, it's hard to say, right? We haven't tested any wells specifically in New Canaan, so I don't want to make any assumptions. The closest we've tested was Reading, and there was nothing that was abnormal about this part of the state. So looking at some of those the stats from before, it's going to be maybe 2 or 3% will have something of concern, such as like arsenic, uranium. I don't believe there was a lot of fluoride in this area, but fluoride does kind of just exist in pockets. So that one can be slightly of concern. Arsenic pretty much will impact any system of the body. It is something that will bioaccumulate in your tissues. So if it is in high quantities, it will slowly just build up, and hard to say what will go wrong. I had a woman, it's pretty much, there was a woman, I think she was part of the Reading testing. She had arsenic in her well and she was drinking it, didn't seem to care, but she was like, how about my farm animals? And so we kind of went through, and I wasn't as educated on the impacts to animals and well water. And it turns out her sheep were having arsenic poisoning, toxicity. They were all anemic. They had vitamin E deficiency and weird muscle coordination issues. And so they kind of just were constantly sitting down. The veterinarian couldn't figure out what was going on. And it turns out it was just high levels of arsenic, and she treated the water. And I believe they are better. I asked once, she said everything's great, but was very vague about it. So can't confirm that. So arsenic for sure, uranium, which again, more the middle part of the Connecticut, like Connecticut River Valley. We did find some exceedances out here, but I think it was maybe 1 or 2 out of the 100. Is going to impact mostly kidneys. But if it is breaking down and turning into radon, that's more going to be for lung issues. Lead, I don't know how old the homes are around here, but it's before 86, you still find lead. And it's, I think it's like 10 is the MCG, which means, we find 6, 7, and the state will say, that's fine. But again, that's still above that MCLG. And for children, right, that's going to be a lot of the developmental disorders. In terms of other thing, I do have a slide here on PFAS. Research is still pretty new on that. Like, we are sure everything that's listed here is definite. It will impact thyroid diseases. It will have impacts on your, I don't say cholesterol, cardiovascular. Oh, it is cholesterol. Cardiovascular system, immune system issues. They're not sure as much on the impacts on kid or children. There is definitely possible correlations there, but I don't want to speak for, any type of causation. In terms of other type of contaminants we have, fluoride in excess will cause bone deformation with children's teeth. Nitrates for pregnant women. So if you do have farms, high levels of nitrates can cause methylglobinemia, or otherwise known as blue baby syndrome. High levels of nitrates will cause issue with oxygen binding into red blood cells. And so children are much more susceptible to this, and they will get a blue kind of shade and be more or less suffocating. It is a pretty severe issue. So if people do have farms in this area, it's definitely good to check your nitrate levels pretty consistently. Chloride and sodium, not as bad on health, but will increase the corrosivity of your water. So looking for those things, looking for pH, and knowing what types of pipes you have in your homes. High levels of copper also can have some types of health issue. We don't test for copper as much, so I can't speak to that, but.
Great, thank you. That's it. You delivered on the scary. And the idea of having a mobile lab testing day, is that something we might organize through you?
Yeah, we can't provide maybe the same level of, I want to say like the educational workshop, but we could definitely come down. The lab has been having some mechanical issues. Okay. We got it from Deep for free, which was great. The other day we brought it out and diesel was just pouring out underneath.
How ironic. That has testing equipment in it?
Has testing equipment in it. We mostly just use it for refrigerator space and then bring everything back up. But the whole outside of it is branded. So it just, I don't have any photos of it in here. Yes, I do.
Oh, so you would typically bring those samples back to stores?
Yeah.
And people bring their own samples to stores?
Yes.
That's an option?
That is an option. For these, we normally coordinate with people. We'll send out emails. We'll mail all the sample kits to them, and they will bring it back on that one day. With that PFAS program coming up, we are slightly strapped for time. However, if it would be, the next 3 months, January to March, sometime in there, I think we could probably coordinate something.
So we would refrigerate hundreds of samples if we were able to collect them and bring them all to you at once?
More, we would coordinate a certain time of when people would come, let's say drop off here at Town Hall. We'll be here with a couple of coolers, if not the lab and all the refrigerator space.
Great.
And
we would support with our
I think the
communications.
sample kits are a good idea though, because you don't know what people are going to keep the water in. if they just bring you the jam jar.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, it has to be, so we provide a 500 milliliter bottle and a 125 milliliter bottle. The 125 is a completely sterile bottle.
Hmm.
And so it has to be sterilized.
Yeah,
We've had people bring in just jam jars and
Yeah.
they just come up screaming with bacteria.
yeah.
And that is $200 a sample. That's what you guys charge, or did you say 50?
225,
225. And if they're delivered to stores, it's the same?
yes.
Are you aware of towns that have done it outside of your, and coordinated with a commercial establishment themselves and maybe gotten a reduced rate for their community?
Yes, Roxbury,
Uh,
they had a testing event. They weren't able to test as many parameters as we did, but I do think they hit some of the more concerning ones.
Right.
And just got rid of like chloride or sodium that were secondary contaminants.
Then you have the information that where people have been out of compliance. I can envision some people not wanting anyone to know that they're out of compliance on their property.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, like we don't share that information like that, there is this map, but you couldn't tell, who has what here.
Right.
But yeah, some people don't want to know the results because they may have to do something about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do they, because of the nature of water, do the testing results change substantially over a period of months?
Substantially over months, no. Do they change? Yes. Like we've definitely seen, iron kind of just go up and down in some people's homes. Mike has a good example where he, on his well, he's tests every 2 years or so. And sometimes the water will come out orange, like right from the tap,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's totally clear.
Mhm.
It very much depends on how water's moving, what
Right.
type of season it's been, if it's drought season or not. Yeah.
I have one other quick question. The test water filtration kits, or whatever you want to call them, that people might use in their home. You have it on the countertop and you might be pouring it into a coffee maker or something.
Mhm.
Do they actually work?
So they are more, let's say that they are accurate, but they are not precise. So you may know that you have some type of, let's say, iron in your water using that, but you wouldn't be able to tell how much. So yes, I would say they work, but they're not.
Well, the core piece that does the filtration certainly fills up with stuff.
Oh yeah,
It gets heavy and it stops working.
yeah. And I haven't used too many of those. I know like the Home Depot ones are the more ones I'm used to people asking about.
Well, I think they're all pretty much the same. I mean, I don't know. Okay, I'm just curious.
I know we're over time, but if you have specific recommendations for how, it sounds like if your neighbor is using de-icing salts and a heavy chemical program, it could actually be, and you have a well, that could impact you. So I wonder if you have a specific recommendation sheet that we could look at around, here's, a responsible
Mhm.
program for your stewardship of your own land so that you can help protect the water of the whole area.
I actually do not. I think it's something probably needed. I can make something like that. I know Mike has done a lot of work with de-icing, and so he probably would be able to speak more on what are safe levels there. But I do have to make fact sheets for the Department of Extension. Like this is one of maybe 6 that we have. So yeah, I can work on that and definitely get that to you maybe in 6 months or so.
Yeah, we'd be interested in that.
Well,
What
I
about
think,
doing
go ahead.
What about doing a baseline measurement? Is that something that we should do as a town, like do 100 samples across the whole town to get some kind of baseline and then let individuals who want get it done for their individual wells? Is that typically done?
I wouldn't say it's typically done. A lot of towns kind of just really are hands off about this. It could be good. We've had people test their wells, right next door, and someone has an exceedance and someone has non-detect. It also depends very much on the depth of your well and what's going on with that vein. So I don't want to, it very much depends. I feel like getting a general read
Mhm.
may not be,
That useful.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think to Annie's point, it's useful, sort of generic information. We talked a little bit about this, that issues of applications, whether it's icing in the wintertime or whether it's pesticides or fertilizers or whatever, it's inevitable. Eventually they're going into the water.
Yes.
They don't disappear. That's my point. Well, no, I think people have this going in to
Yeah.
improve my soil, and my soil, they think, is probably only about 6 inches deep, and that'll be fine. But that's not what happens.
No, absolutely not.
And there's a lot of runoff from roads.
Yeah.
I think the town doesn't use salt anymore.
I don't know.
I think they use ice treatment on the roads, but I think it's a 2-step process. I forget all of it.
We could ask.
But
Tiger
people
next
buy
time.
salt in bags from the hardware store.
Sure.
And just to understand that salt doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Do you provide a list of the commercial companies that provide the service of the testing? Or I can see the next question is, where do I go get, how do I do this?
Yeah, the the list on our website with all of the labs to get tested
Yeah.
is the best we have.
Okay, yeah.
Since we are technically a state agency, we cannot recommend specific companies over others. I can't figure out this.
But you have a list.
And also a list of the companies that might put the filtration systems in your house.
Yeah, that is what we definitely do not have.
Do not have, okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the water companies
Yeah.
that we all
Yes.
use do that sort of thing. They install it, at least the ones that I have seen, they install it at the either before the water goes into your boiler system. I mean, your drinking water,
Right.
your tank,
Mhm.
between the well delivery and the arrival in the
Right.
tank, it's a thingy. But I think they do that.
Okay.
Well, great. Any other questions?
Oh, that was
That was
fascinating.
terrific,
Yeah,
Alex.
yeah.
Really
We
appreciate it.
severely terrified everybody for that.
We may have, yes. Well, thank you
Not
so much.
drinking any water this
Thank you.
afternoon.
Thank you.
So before I adjourn the meeting, I just want to comment that I'll be sure to follow up with some emails on the budget process as we're getting closer to some deadlines. As I mentioned earlier, also follow up on the Bristow walk schedule. So I'll just copy you all on the email to Robin on the idea of joining her. And then lastly, an email soliciting ideas on follow-up to our discussion today about well water testing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
I think the public hearing process for the budget starts seriously in January.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Great. Okay, with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Thank you, John. Second. Thank you, Ann. All in favor? Great. Thank you very much. Great meeting.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Thanks, Tom.
And it would be helpful to have your.
Can you just remind me, where do I bring this?
Oh, yeah.
As you're leaving downstairs. It's just sort of mailroom area. I can go.
I'm happy to go say hi to Lola anyway.
Yes, yeah, it's over to the right.
Okay.
As you're leaving.
Do you
Thanks for doing the June.
have a
No problem.
understanding of how rigorous the
I was
water
good secretary.
companies are, or like how variable are they in their?
I'm glad.
That I know.
It's not well.
Sounds
water, is
good.
it? Well,
I'm
Yeah.
excited about
Still
all the
pretty
common
new to
stuff.
extension
Yeah.
I think.
educated role, so I am learning, but yeah, no.
I mean, we have here, the aquarium, but there